Wonderful. Well, I'm going to share my screen. And what we're going to talk about today is, like I said, we're going to talk through the 4 disciplines of execution. And what are the challenges that we experience? The whirlwind. We have so many activities that we do that don't produce income. So we can feel like we're so busy doing things and just being busy, but not actually being productive. And so what we want to identify is, what are the activities that actually lead us to our goal? So sometimes organizing everything and making sure everything is so perfectly put together, but not reaching out to anyone, is just being busy. It's not productive. Now, it will help you once you start to reach out to everyone, but sometimes we allow that to cripple us from what we actually need to do. And that is sharing the business with other people. More distractions than ever before. We are constantly being hit with things. Anytime you open your phone, you've got notifications, you have Facebook, you have text messages, and we live in a very microwave society. We want information right now, and we're constantly being distracted. So I love the saying, like, squirrel, squirrel, because sometimes even in just conversation, it's hard for us to focus. So in our business, we really need to identify, what are the activities I need to do to then be able to get to my goals and get to the level that I am shooting for in this business. And then identifying the lead measure and tracking that progress is difficult. So prior to this, we all had maybe multiple processes, multiple ways of sharing it. We might be out at the grocery store and tell someone about something. And then later on, we're doing a home meeting. And so we were sharing it in multiple different ways, but it's very difficult to track what is working and what is not. What are people interested in? What are they watching? And so we created in this app ways for you to do that. And a lot of these are the types of things we're covering every single week, different features that came about from people just like you that had ideas and needs of what they wanted it to do so that they could have everything at their fingertips on their phone. So the app keeps you focused on your lead measure, the thing that moves you closer to your most important goal, okay? And that is driving prospecting. There is nothing better than driving prospecting, because if we're not reaching out to people to share what we have, we're never gonna sell anything, because no one knows that we have it to sell. And so we have to be doing that lead measure, the prospecting, to ultimately get us to where we wanna go. Following a simple and repeatable formula to execute on your most important priorities, which means do it the same. We always overcomplicate things. One of my favorite sayings is, don't recreate the wheel. The wheel works. And what's been built into this app for you is what people need to see. And like Christelle just said, we're working with marketing to make sure that we bring in the latest and greatest videos, the latest and greatest offerings that the company has, so that you have everything right here for you in one place, and it's very easy to share it out with people. You can also see clear measurements of what's working and how to make adjustments in real time. So for instance, if I'm working on a process and I'm doing it, and Janelle is doing something a little different, Janelle and I can compare notes and we can see what is working, because we have the data and the stats in our app to see. We can get to our ratios. So I might get 3 out of 10 to watch something, but Hannah might get 8 out of 10. Well, then I need to know what Hannah's doing, because I just need to make one simple change, and then I'm going to start having a better result. We also need to ditch the distractions. What are those distractions? Not just ditch them, but to identify them. What are we spending our time on? We got to improve our habits and be more accountable to ourselves. So within this app, I'm going to jump in here shortly, but you can see your numbers. It's not the team's numbers. It's not your leader's numbers. It is you. And you can see what you are doing to lead to the prospecting, who you're reaching out to, what you're sharing with them. Are you listening to them? Because as we know, questions are the insight to someone's soul. And if we're not asking questions and we're constantly talking at them or telling them what they need, they're going to be less receptive. But if they've expressed a need to us and we're now meeting that need, they are going to want to hear what we have to say. And so understanding those pieces in the app are so important. So I'm going to jump in here in the app and I'm going to start to show you where you can see all of that. So I want to highlight for you too, what are the 4 disciplines of execution? That is what it's a book. It's a wonderful book. But the first one is focus on your wildly important goal. So we all know as we have a goal, we have to start to build that out and I always go backwards. I'm like, okay, I want to get to this level. And what does getting to that level require from me? It requires me to do these 10 things every single day. And I will get to that goal. Because if my ratio is I talk to 1 or I talk to 10 and I get 1, well, then I now know how many people I need to talk to get to my goal. The second in that book is act on the lead measure, which in our business, that is prospecting. That is the very first thing you can do to start to get yourself to that goal. And then keep a compelling scorecard. I'm going to show you in the app how you can start to see your stats. What is your scorecard? Again, I need to know what I am doing, not my partner, not my leader, what I am doing to get to where I want to go. And then also a cadence of accountability is the 4th. And that is making sure that you have people that you're working with. You now have the app. You can send your stats to people. You can brag. You can do fun things, have some fun accountability within the team. And so that will ultimately get you to your goal. If you can do those 4 things and you can prioritize and make sure you're doing the most important things, which is always prospecting and following up, you will get there. So I'm going to share my app here real quick and we will jump right in to where all of that is. Oh, I got to make myself the host. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so here we are in your app, okay? So one of the things that I mentioned first was, focusing on our wildly important goal. And what is that? So in order to do that, you need to know what your ratio is. What is your success ratio? What is working for you? Well, you can get that number right here. So you can see my statistics are 73%. So if I rounded my exposures and engagements, then I am getting people to engage with me 73% of the time. So that is working. Now from there, you can follow it through to a sale. So I might be getting of the 22 I exposed, 73% are engaging, and of that 73%, 15% are buying. Okay. So that is helping you lead yourself to that goal. For those of you that are leaders on this call, it can also help you coach your team because now you can help them identify areas and ways to improve to get that ratio up. Okay. And then acting on the lead measure, we've talked about that quite a few times on sending resources. Okay. So for instance, if I have a conversation with Hannah, we're talking about, different needs that she might have. She has expressed to me that she's a tea drinker and, we've talked through this. I can now go in the app and say, Hannah, based on that conversation, I absolutely have to share this with you. It's amazing. I'm just going to send you a quick 1-minute video. Do you have time to watch it tonight or today or right now? And I create some accountability with her and then she can watch it. And I can do that all by sending a text message and sending her that resource directly. We also have surveys that we can send and ask them to help us with some market research or, hey, I've identified some ways that we might be able to help you. Can you fill this out? And let me know if there are other ways or other things you might be interested in as well. Okay. And then the next one is create a compelling scorecard, which is your scorecard. And so one of the places I would encourage you to go to really identify what you are doing is you can look right here at the very front page where it has exposures and engagements. It shows you all of those this month. So for instance, if I'm talking to someone and I'm like, oh, I'm just working so hard. I'm so busy. No one is responding. And I show you this page and you're like, you have sent nothing this month. I don't know what you're so busy with, but you're not busy on the right activities. You're not prospecting people. You're not sending information. So you can see it for this month, and you can also see it for this week. So for instance, if I have a blowout week, but the entire month nothing has been happening, well, I have to keep working that pipeline, and eventually it will come, but it's going to require work, okay? We also can click on the statistics where we have the 73%, and that opens up for you some additional details, okay? So I want to repeat this. I know we've mentioned it a couple of times, but what is the difference between an exposure and an engagement? An exposure means I have sent them something, okay? An engagement means that they have clicked on it. They have engaged back with me, okay? So if I click here on statistics, this number is my total engagements. So I can see that I exposed 22 people for the lifetime of my app. So as long from the day I signed up and set up this app is where that's from. But what have I done in the last 30 days? I have done nothing. So it's not surprising that my business is standing still because I'm not taking any action. I'm not doing those lead measures to get to my goal. You also have this other stat that's called resources opened. So this shows what people are actually, that they're opening and looking at, again, for the lifetime and the 30 days. And then we also have the stats on our emails. So with the email campaigns, we talked about this a few weeks ago. If you missed that training, look at the coaching. We have all of the trainings prior to this one loaded, and you can get there by just clicking on the bottom of your screen where that little graduation cap is and watching that video. But for email opt-in, I have assigned multiple people. So I've assigned 8 people to the email campaign. Of those four people have engaged with me and opted into the emails, okay? You can also see that from a lifetime to the last 30 days. So if you're a leader on this call, I would encourage you to use these stats to help coach your team, to encourage them to make sure that they're doing the right activities to ultimately get to that goal. Now, for the accountability, there are multiple ways to do accountability in this app. You can always send your stats. You could send these stats, or you could send this front page of stats to a leader or to a teammate or to someone that you're competing with. We also have contests going where you can start to see what people are doing, and you can make sure that you're at the top of that leaderboard of the contests. And then the other thing that you can do in your settings, if you have a leader that is engaged and actively participating in the app, you can click more, settings, and you could input your upline email. And then that would send them notifications as you're doing activity within the app to create some additional accountability. Now, when I say upline, it doesn't necessarily have to be your top line leader. It could be the person, that signed you up, or maybe a couple of levels up if that person is no longer in the business. But that's another way that we've built in accountability into this app. So I will pause with sharing my screen here. I'm going to promote our next workshop, and then I'll open it up for questions. So our next workshop is going to be, what do you love? Creating and tracking your own links. So we're going to be showing you guys how to create personal resources. So we've talked a lot about the company resources that can be shared out, but next week we're going to be talking about how you can create your own. So if you have a document or something or a video that you have created or that you like to use, you can add that in the app as well. So I will stop here